So Black Ops 6 has been out for over a week now, and having played it all throughout that time, having reached Prestige 1 and feeling like I've experienced everything that the game has to give now, I want to give my final review on the Zombies mode. Is it good? Is it bad? And if you haven't brought it already, is it worth it? How does Black Ops 6 Zombies, because that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video, purely the Zombies mode, not the campaign, not the multiplayer or Warzone. How does this game's version of Treyarch Zombies fare up? I'll be honest, besides from the campaign, this is really the only mode I've touched in Black Ops 6. I played 2 or 3 games of the multiplayer. I'm not a Warzone player anymore, so all my ranking up in BO6 has come from Zombies. As far as playtime, I could probably get it up for you, but just guessing it has to be 20 plus hours surely, so I've got a good feel for Zombies by now. The main Easter egg quests have been done. We've solved most, I would say, of the side Easter eggs. I've learned the story we've been told so far in the 2 maps, Liberty Falls and Terminus, and the gameplay isn't going to change. I kind of did a mini initial review on it a week ago, where my final verdict was if you liked Cold War Zombies, you were going to like this because it's quite similar. It feels like a more improved Cold War Zombies. You wouldn't be wrong in calling it Cold War 2.0. The gameplay isn't all that different, neither is the HUD. We've got operators. Besides from the augment system and the Gobblegums, the game doesn't feel all that different to Cold War, to be honest. But it's a lot better. Just one of the main issues that I found with Cold War, especially at the beginning, was the lack of content. But with BO6 having 2 maps at launch, Liberty Falls and Terminus, and the amount of content packed within both of them, whether it be side Easter eggs, storyline related stuff, or like I said, the different experiments that you could do with the augment system or the Gobblegums in order to change up the playstyle, there is a lot of content here. Even though it's 2 maps, we've had games in the past such as Black Ops 4 which had 4 maps on day 1. However, it feels like Liberty Falls and Terminus have so much more to do in them whilst also maintaining a pretty high quality. Okay, they're not perfect. Does Liberty Falls have a shit ton of atmosphere? No. Is it a beautifully aesthetic map? Not particularly, but does that stop it from being a good map and being enjoyable to play? No. Is Terminus a top 5 map of all time? For me, personally, it's not. But again, does that mean it's not a good map? No. It is. These 2 launch maps in Black Ops 6, Terminus and Liberty Falls, are solid, which, especially when you take into consideration the crap that we've been given over the past few years, is nice. You know what? It's just nice to finally have what feels like a couple of decent Zombies maps. You get that feeling straight away, and to be honest, when I first played it, I gave it like a 6.5 out of 10, potentially a 7, but when you level up a bit, unlock some augments, complete some side Easter eggs, and the main Easter egg, it's so much better. So what would I give it as an overall score now? Well, I'll tell you at the end of the video, but breaking each section of the mode down. Now, the augment system is brand new to Black Ops 6. It is essentially a more improved in-depth version of the skill tree that we saw in Black Ops Cold War Zombies. However, instead of being able to unlock everything and then use all of those upgrades permanently, you get a choice of 6 different upgrades for each perk, ammo mod and field upgrade, and you've then got to choose between the 2 that you want. So just for anyone who still doesn't know or hasn't played the game, for Juggernog, there are 6 upgrades in total, 3 major augments and 3 minor augments, but you can only choose 2 of them. But in Black Ops Cold War, for example, you would be able to choose all of them. In BO6, you have to pick between 2, which actually makes the gameplay pretty interesting. Being able to change up which augments you want brings in more of a challenge and means you've got to experiment with different augments to find what you feel for you is the best setup in the game, and you may want to change them around from time to time. Even though I'm probably just going to find the best augments and then stick with them, there are quite a few of them that are arguably as good as one another. So experimenting with the augment system is definitely worth doing, adding a whole new depth to BO6 that just wasn't there in Cold War. And I'm going to compare the 2 quite a lot because if you've played the 2 games, they do feel, gameplay wise and look, relatively similar. There's no denying that. But Black Ops 6 has a lot more depth, and some of that is down to the augment system. And the other big feature that was introduced, or I should say reintroduced, were the Gobblegums. The last time and only time we saw them was in Black Ops 3. There are a lot of returning Gobblegums and a few new ones as well, but the way they work is slightly different. You can now choose a Gobblegum pack where you select 5 Gobblegums that you want to take into a match. You then go up to the machine in game, you get one of those 5 random Gobblegums from it, you choose whether you want to take it or not, but if you do, unlike Black Ops 3, you can now store 3 of them on you at a time. So whenever you're playing, you can just select right on the D-pad, pick one of the Gobblegums you're holding, and consume it, gaining its ability. Now, if you're like me, I just never really used Gobblegums in Black Ops 3 anyway, and I haven't all that much in Black Ops 6 to be honest, besides from when I'm doing Easter eggs, but just to have Gobblegums there on the side if you do want to use them is nice. I know a lot of people love them. It does provide variety to the gameplay. I don't think they hurt the game in any way. You could argue that they make it easier, but I can tell you as a person who just doesn't really use Gobblegums, this is a very easy game anyway. More than anything, I would just say Gobblegums make the game more fun. It's almost like having a cheat code with some of them. Now, when it comes to the perks, there is one new perk in Black Ops 6 Zombies, but there's also a lot that are missing which really should be in the game, such as Mule Kick. That was in Black Ops Cold War. Why have Treyarch removed it from this game? I can't see any reason why it wouldn't or shouldn't be included in the game. I can see what's probably going to happen. They'll just add it in as DLC and market them as new perks or new content, which shouldn't be a thing. But yeah, Mule Kick has existed pretty much since the beginning of Call of Duty Zombies. Treyarch seem to like doing this weird thing of removing content that should be a staple. Like, there is no valid reason why Mule Kick shouldn't exist in Black Ops 6, but it doesn't. It's the same with Widow's Wine or Double Tap. Or what they could do is what they've done with Electric Cherry, where it now exists in the form of an augment. Why not add in Mule Kick as one of the speed cola upgrades, or why not add in Double Tap as a major augment? For me, that would make more sense. But pretty much all of the other basic perks remain in the game, and they've added in one new one, which is Melee Macchiato. I'm going to say it right now, this is probably one of not only the worst perks ever, that's got to go to Tombstone surely, but the most useless. I don't know who asked for a perk that would improve your melee attack. Absolutely no one passed round like 5 melees in Zombies, and if you did, that was what the Bowie knife was for. Treyarch have basically removed the Bowie knife from the game, or any powerful melee weapon, and replaced it with this perk, and yeah, it's useless. You can add any augment to it, it doesn't improve it to the point where even on medium rounds it's going to be effective. Reaching those high rounds, it doesn't kill zombies with one punch. Not to mention that punching zombies in the first place, or attacking them with any melee weapon, is way more dangerous on those high rounds than shooting them. It's just not worth the risk reward. There is no reward. Surely Treyarch's developers must have had at least a couple of ideas for way better perks they could have spent their time working on, not one that gives you a better punch. It sounds kind of cool in theory, I guess, but when it comes to playing the game, it's actually one of the most useless perks I think we've ever gotten. So because of that, it does kind of feel like there aren't any new perks in Black Ops 6, which is a shame because that's been a reoccurring problem in Zombies for a very long time. Can you think of the last time we actually had a new perk in Zombies? Was it Black Ops 3 with Widow's Wine? We did have a totally different perk system in Black Ops 4, so to count that doesn't feel right. But when it comes to the traditional system, actually in Cold War we had Elemental Pop, but even then, that just makes your field upgrade activate more often. Elemental Pop doesn't even really feel like a perk. Just looking at all of these perk icons I've got at the bottom of my screen here, every single one of them are old perks. Granted, some of them work differently now and include new abilities, but the basic perks themselves, Quick Revive, Stamina Up, Juggernog, Speed Cola, Deadshot, and PhD, have existed in Zombies since World at War and Black Ops 1. So yeah, the new perk for this game is very disappointing. Some of the big complaints before the game came out was the HUD. It got to the point where I think like a week before release, Treyarch announced that they had changed the HUD in BO6. They added in this character icon down the bottom left, moved the perk icons closer together, and whilst it does look slightly better, I haven't noticed the HUD as much or really complained about it like I did in Modern Warfare 3 or Vanguard or Cold War. It's okay, and you can change the layout or turn certain elements of the HUD off, but the actual icons themselves still look quite multiplayerized or Warzoneized. I would just love to see unique HUD elements in Zombies, whether that be a zombie specific font, some character added to it instead of just these plain boxes. I don't know whether it's because I'm kind of used to it now. We've had pretty boring looking HUDs ever since Cold War, but honestly, it doesn't bother me that much. Like I said, you can turn it off if you want and have the screen blank, but then that puts you at a disadvantage to not have the ammo counter on your screen, or the amount of points you've got, or the amount of armor plates isn't viable. Besides from the minimap, I would say you pretty much need everything else on your screen. But yeah, honestly, if you've got that worry, if you have played some of the more recent games, this HUD is a tiny improvement, but it still doesn't look exciting, which it should do. This is Call of Duty Zombies. There's really no reason for it to look as unimaginative as this. The other complaint before the game came out was the armor system. We had this in Cold War, but the change that Treyarch have made this time around is you now have to manually apply your armor plates, whereas in that game you just walked over armor plates that had been dropped on the floor and they'd be applied automatically. You didn't have to think about it. I thought, having done this in Modern Warfare 3, that this was going to be super annoying in round-based zombies because it's so much more fast-paced. I thought that I wasn't going to notice I was low on armor most of the time and get down because I hadn't realized or had forgotten to apply plates myself. But honestly, it's not an issue at all. Would I prefer armor not to be in the game at all? Yes, I think that purely should be a Warzone feature. Just how plating gets into multiplayer, it doesn't belong in Zombies either, but you having to apply plates manually isn't the problem that I thought it was going to be. After 1 or 2 games, you kind of just do it as you're playing naturally. It's not something you think about. armor still doesn't belong in zombies. I haven't changed my mind ever since its introduction. Its only purpose is to give you more health, but that's exactly what Juggernaut is for. But it is a part of it. Is it a game breaker? No. This is just a part of modern zombies now. I think almost everyone's accepted it. And the final complaint before I get to the maps themselves was operators. Now, whilst you can play as a dedicated crew in Terminus, you can't in Liberty Falls. So how much of an issue is it that operators still exist in BO6? And well, I don't feel like it is this time around. Maybe because the storyline in Liberty Falls feels like it's catered towards you playing as operators. They are integrated into the storyline. There is a reason why you play as them compared to Terminus, but you do notice what you're missing out on when you play the two maps. When you play Terminus as Weaver, Carver, Gray and Maya, and you listen to the quotes they come out with and the conversations that they have between one another, and then you switch to playing as the operators in Liberty Falls and you don't get any of that experience, you do notice what a huge difference it makes. And it does make Terminus that much better than Liberty Falls because it's more entertainment. So at least we do have a dedicated crew. I just hope from now on in DLC 1, 2, 3 and 4 that you play as those characters in those maps. Operators being optional is fine, but the standard crew has to be those four. Okay, getting to the maps themselves, starting off with Liberty Falls, I thought, and I know the majority of other people were on the same page, this was going to be a terrible map because from the gameplay we were shown at COD Next, it looked like a multiplayer map. It had no character, no atmosphere. Compared to Terminus, it looked bland and boring. Like I said, we played as operators. It looked like it could be passed off as a multiplayer map, but actually playing it, I've got to say sorry. And I'll admit, I play this map more than I do Terminus. Maybe that's because it's easier to set up, it's better for grinding camos, but it's also a pretty good map at the same time. I take back what I said, it doesn't feel like you're playing a multiplayer map. It feels like you're playing a zombies map during the day. And putting myself in Treyarch's shoes, if I was a Treyarch developer, what would I do to make this map look better without changing the time of day? Maybe add a few more cars on fire, but that would change the layout and probably make it worse. Maybe add some more character to the buildings, some rubble, some vines, some crap bricks, but the zombie outbreak only happened here the day before, so the town naturally wouldn't be that destroyed and overrun. What could you do to Liberty Falls to make it look better? I don't think much was needed to be done now. I don't know why it feels so different to what it looked like at the COD Next event, but it does. There hasn't been one time where I've been playing Liberty Falls and I've thought, this is a really boring map. I don't want to play it. This doesn't feel like a zombies map. It's fine. It's not a top 10 map of all time. It's probably not top 15 or top 20. I think there's something like 35 to 40 zombies maps in existence, considering some of the amazing maps we've had over the years. This is okay. This is a good zombies map. What helps is there is a ton of side Easter eggs in it. It is packed with content and things for you to do. The main Easter egg, although very short, is fun. The boss fight's a little bit lackluster to the point where I wouldn't consider it a boss fight, more like 3 rounds of fighting zombies. But the whole point of Liberty Falls was it was supposed to be catered more towards the multiplayer player or the Warzone player, and that was what worried me. But I think it also caters towards the average zombies player as well. The wonder weapon, the jet gun, I always want to call it the thunder gun, is really good. It's so much better than the original in Transit. The storyline on this map is interesting, especially with the intro cutscene, which is way better than the one we got for Terminus. Yeah, besides from the atmosphere lacking, that's undeniable, this is a good zombies map. The one thing I really don't like about it is the Abomination. I'm kind of sick of seeing that enemy in zombies at this point, but it's also just really annoying to kill. I don't know why it feels like it takes longer or it's more difficult to hit its critical spots than in previous games in Modern Warfare 3 or Cold War. It would be a better map without it. And the other thing we've got to mention are the manglers. Whilst I am tired of seeing them as well, what makes it worse is once you reach past round 32-35, this issue also applies to Terminus as well, because they're on that map. You start getting about 5 to 6, maybe even 7 manglers on the map at once, every single round, which doesn't make it more difficult, it makes it annoying. Past round 30 on this game, you're better off just exfilling and then coming back. That's something that Treyarch have to patch. That can't go on. The mangler spam is ridiculous. So when it comes to the bosses on this map, the Vermin are okay, even though their special rounds last way too long, but the Abomination and the Mangler don't make it an enjoyable experience. At the end of the day, it is supposed to be fun, right? Treyarch simply could have just increased the health of the zombies, not add 100 elite enemies on the map at once. But if I had to give Liberty Falls an overall score, I would give it a 6.5. And then Terminus. Now, I said this in my initial review, I still feel the same now a week later. Both of these maps, gameplay-wise, feel relatively similar in terms of size. Liberty Falls feels medium to large-ish. Terminus is definitely a large map, but because of how big the water is, which is an unplayable area, you're not going to stay there. And the small islands are also not places that you're gonna stay to train the zombies. 99% of your playtime is spent on the main island. Because of that, the maps are relatively similar in size. The size and the amount of training spots is not too different. Honestly, you play both of these maps, besides from the atmosphere and character, how they feel to play, to me at least, maybe I'm crazy, there's not that much difference between them. If you place me on Liberty Falls and you place me on Terminus and tell me which one do I want to play, or go out there and play them, I'll be like, okay, either one of these maps are fine. Whereas you can go back to some games like Black Ops 1, where on day 1 you had 5 and Kino de Toten. Which would I prefer to play? Kino all day. That's a much more enjoyable experience. But between Terminus and Liberty Falls, I'll happily play either. However, Terminus does have a bit more character, not just because of the atmosphere, how it looks, it actually has a zombified vibe, but the dedicated cast of characters 100% helps with that as well. Terminus also feels like it has the same amount of side Easter eggs as Liberty Falls. The main Easter egg is probably about 10 minutes longer, but where it does differ is it has an actual boss fight. It is a kraken or octopus, whatever you want to call it, called Patient 13. This has to be one of the most difficult boss fights I've ever seen in zombies, and also visually one of the best, so hats off to Tryout there. They did a really good job with Easter eggs, meaning the only other big difference is the boss. Whereas on Liberty Falls you had the Abomination, on Terminus you have the amalgam. Which would I prefer to fight? The amalgam. 100%. Whilst its grab animation can be frustrating, if you stay away from it, it's just way easier to kill and take damage off. It doesn't have multiple attacks like the Abomination, where it will randomly charge at you or shoot lasers, then you've got to wait for it to open its mouth. The amalgam is a much better boss to come across. It looks better as well, so 1 point to Terminus there. Overall, this is a solid map. I will say, I think the islands and the water is kind of redundant. The islands don't really feel like they're a part of the map. They feel like they're their own separate thing because they don't have anything on them. There's no perks on them, and because of that, that means they're not viable training areas. You can stay on the shipwreck or the island, but eventually you're going to have to return to the mainland to buy perks or armor or pack-a-punch, so you may as well just stay there unless you're doing Easter eggs. The islands on this map I just find pretty pointless. It seems like they've just been put there so Tryout can claim this is one of the biggest maps they've ever made, at least the biggest round-based. However, if I had to give Terminus an overall score, I would say this is a solid 7.5 map, potentially reaching an 8. And with that then, how would I rate Black Ops 6 Zombies? So far, this is a solid experience. I would say if you enjoyed Cold War, you will definitely enjoy this. If you didn't like Cold War Zombies, and I have to compare the two because there is an undeniable visual similarity between the two. There is an undeniable gameplay similarity, not just how it feels, but the armor system, the perks, the HUD, the minimap. I wouldn't blame people for saying this is Cold War 2.0 or Terminus and Liberty Falls could pass for Black Ops Cold War DLC maps. So if you weren't keen on that game, I would say you actually might like this. It's better. Compared to some of the crap we've got over the past few years, this is a solid zombies mode. I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. But if you want to round it up to a whole number, we'll say 8. Oh, and I forgot about the pause timer. Yeah, you can only pause for 15 minutes max in a game of zombies. We've all got other stuff to do. On a multiplayer game, you could expect that, but when it comes to solo, there should not be a limited amount of time that you can pause for. If Tryout could find a way to extend that to 45 minutes or even half an hour would be better. 15 minutes is just too short, and for a solo game isn't acceptable anyway. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about Black Ops 6 Zombies so far? I'd be interested to read what you guys think. As always, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest content on the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.